samsaradava nalalita loka tranaya karuna gana ganatvam
samsaradava nalalita loka tranaya karuna gana ganatvam
praptasya kalyana gunanavasya vande guru shri charanaravinda
praptasya kalyana gunanavasya vande guru shri charanaravinda
Mahaprabhu kirtana nitya gita vaditra madhyan manasorasena
Mahaprabhu kirtana nitya gita vaditra madhyan manasorasena
romancha kampa shutaranga vajo vande guru shri charanaravinda
romanchakampa sutaranga vajo vande guru shri charanaravinda
Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingarathan Mandira Marjanado
Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingarathan Mandira Marjanado
Yuktasya Bhaktam Saniyunjatoti Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Yuktasya Bhaktam Saniyunjatoti Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Chaturvida Shri Bhagavat Prasado Swadana Triptan Hari Bhaksha Sangram
Chaturvidashri Bhagavad Prasada Satana Tripta Haribhakta Sangha
Kritraiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Vidvaiva Tripte Bhajata Sadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Shri Radhika Madhava Yorapara Madhurya Leela Ganarupa Namna
Shri Radhika Madhava Yorapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namna
Pratikshana Svadana Lolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Pratikshana Svadana Lolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Nikunjayo no rati kheli se thai Yaya libir yukti rapekshaniya
Nikunjayo no ratikiriseja Jajari vejo kirapechaniya
Tatrati daksha ativalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda साक्षादारित्वेना समस्तशास्त्रे उक्तस्तथा भायतैव सर्वे
पश्चादरिवेना समस्तशास्त्रे प्रोक्तस्तथा यतैव सर्वे
किन्तु प्रभोर्य प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम्
किन्तु प्रभोज प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम्
यस्य प्रसाद भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसाद न गति कुतोऽपि
यस्य प्रसाद यस्य प्रसाद भगवति कुतोऽपि
जयं स्तुवांस्तस्य यस्य त्रिसाद्यं वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम्
जयं शुभं तस्य यस्य त्रिसन्ध्यं वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम्
वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् 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 वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम्
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने
नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे
नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य
चैतन्य
प्रभु नित्यानंद
Nityananda,
Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakti
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Chaitanya,
Prabhu Nityananda
Nityananda,
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakti
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Nilamadava, Radha Nilamadava, Radhe.
Jaya Radha, Nila Madhava Radha.
Jaya Radha Nilamadava.
Radhe.
Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe.
Jaya Radhe,
Jai Radhe,
Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe.
Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra.
Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra.
Jaya Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman.
Jaya Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman.
Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha.
Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha
Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai.
Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva.
Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Nittai Gaura Hari Bol
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Vishnu Pakara Paramahansa Prabhajagacharya Suttara Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhocharvina Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Pratishta Bhaviti Samstapakacharya Vaishnava Siramani Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patiti Udara Ki Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhakti Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sadguru Swami Prabhu Ki Jai Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai Nanta Kuri Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai Prem Si Koho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Jai Param Dayal Sri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Prema Nama Sankirtane Ka Janaka Prema Purushottama Shri Sachinandana Shman Guranga Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaur Hari Mavarana Avatar Ki Jai Golokera Pramadhan Hari Nam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai Juga Dharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Brihatndanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Radha Kun Samakun Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Braja Bhumi Vrindavan Mathurdham Ki Jai The Lordship Shri Radha Nila Madhava Ki Jai Shri Shri Maya Purnavadip Eka Chakradham Ki Jai Paramakaruna Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai Shri Purushottama Kitra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu Shrimati Subhadra Devi Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan Ki Jai Sri Ram Lakshman Bhakta Hanuman Ji Ki Jai Bhakti Sarva Vigna Vinashana Kana Shingare Bhagavan Ki Jai Jaganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulasi Maharani Vrindi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Mathura Dharani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Nitai Gaurari Pramanande All glories to the Assembly Bodies, all glories to the Assembly Bodies, all glories to the Assembly Bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Jai Guru Premanand. What was it? What to sing?
Namaste Narasimhaya
Namaste Narasimhaya
Namaste Narasimhaya
Namaste Narasimhaya
Prahlada Ladadayine Hiranyakashipurvakshaha Shilantanka Nakalaye Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha
Ito Nrsimha Parato Nrsimha
Yato Yato Yamitato Narsimha
Jaya Jato Jato Jamita
Tato Narsimha Bahe Narsimha Hirdaye Narsimha
Pahi Nrsimha Hridaye Nrsimha
Narasimha Madim Saranam Prapate
Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapade
Tava Kara Kamala Vare Nakam Abhuta Shingmam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Keshavatirtha Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Tava Kara Kamala Vare Nakam Bhuta Shimam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringa Keshavatirtha Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jayo Keshavatirtha Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Keshavatirtha Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jayo Narasimhade Jayo Narasimhade Jayo Narasimhade Jayo Narasimhade
Jaya Nrsimha
Jayo Narasimhade Jayo Narasimhade Jayo Narasimhade Jayo Prahlad Maharaj Jayo Prahlad Maharaj Jayo Prahlad Maharaj Jayo Prahlad Maharaj
Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada जय श्री श्री भक्ति पद सर्वक विघ्नाशना कनिष्ठ भगवान की जय भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय गौर प्रमानंद हरि बोल श्री वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारे देवे सतवताय नमः नमः वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारे देवे सतवताय नमः नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namah. Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vendadevi Ki.
Namo Nama Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Nama
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namah.
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Nama
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namah.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Vilasi
Radha Krishna Seva Pava Eya Vilasi.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Vilasi
Radha Krishna Seva Pava Eya Vilasi.
Je tomara sharanaloy Tara Vansha Purna hoy Kripa Kori Kara Tare Vrindavana Basi Moraeya Vilas Vilas Kunjeri Ava Nayane Heri Vasada Jugala Ruparasi Eni Vedana Daro Sakir Anugata Koro Sevari Karadie Koro Nijadasi Zina Krishna Dase Koi Eye Namora Hoy Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadayena Basi Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadayena Basi
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadaya Namasi.
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Nama Nama.
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namo.
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namo. Yani Kani Cha Papani Brahmadyati Kani Cha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani. Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo.
Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Namaha. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Namaha. Vrindaye Tulasi Devaye Nyaya ke sabha satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradede Satavataye Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi ki jai. Oh Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of his wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of covered damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maidservant. His very fallen and lowly servant Krishna praise. May I always fame in love with Shri Shri Radha and Govinda Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Chaito Darpanam Ajanam Bhavamādhava Nirvapanam Shri Akari Chandika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Ananda Buddhivardhanam Padipadam Purnamritasvadanam Sarvatmasnam Param Paramijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Dhava vidada tulam pato matpranana tastu saivanapal. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna ki jai. Namo Mahavaranaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratishi. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the primary benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays that benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus we have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, Out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself Lord and strong in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can generally name the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause of devotion and service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharajananda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I am falling in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at the lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And will the hairs on my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment of like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I don't know one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if sunders me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kastakam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. Blaspheme devotees who dedicate life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods and Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to
as
the
imagination.
6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the
Lord.
7.
To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord.
8. To consider
Chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are often Vedas as fruit of activities of karma kanda.
9. To instruct the fearless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names, and to
maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, the devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vaishnava Thakur Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tanami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Vicharine Nirvisesis Paskatya Saturn. Shri Guru Pranama Prayers Ki Jai. Om Aganyat Timirandasya Yananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Jataha Pajakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Sabadutam Padjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitam Sha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamine Shivarsavanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhakti Da Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Varudapa Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishoraya Shakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralamba Rasambode Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitananda Namine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gauravir Bhava Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Chuse Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Krishna Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Suratur Pangur Mamamanda Mater Gati Matsarva Swapadambojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadramadaha Shimad Ratnagara Sanastato Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prestali Bihi Sevyamanam Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswaner Gopir Gopinatakstriye Struna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Panchatattva Mahamantra Ki Jai Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavindam. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by his plenary expansion, Shri Nityananda Prabhu, his incarnation, Shri Advaita Prabhu, his internal potency, Shri Gadadhara Prabhu, and his marginal potency, Shivas Prabhu. He is in the midst of them as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know that Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by these other tattvas. Therefore, our obeisances to Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are complete when we say, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. As preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement, we first offer our obeisances to Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting this Panchatattva mantra. Then we say, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There are 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, but these are not considered in the chanting of the Panchatattva mantra, namely, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known as the Mahavadanya, the most magnanimous incarnation, for he does not consider the offenses of the fallen souls. Thus, to derive the full benefit from chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, we must first take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, learn the Panchatattva mantra, and then chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That will be very effective. Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The transcendental vibration established by the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the sublime method of reviving our Krishna consciousness. As living spiritual souls, we are all originally Krishna conscious entities, but due to our association with matter from time immemorial, our consciousness is now polluted by the material atmosphere. The material atmosphere in which we are now living is called Maya, or illusion. Maya means that which is not. And what is that illusion? The illusion is that we are all trying to be lords of material nature, while actually we are under the grip of her stringent laws. When a servant artificially tries to imitate the all-powerful master, this is called illusion. In this polluted concept of life, we are all trying to exploit the resources of material nature, but actually we are being more and more entangled in her complexities. Therefore, although we have engaged in a hard struggle to conquer nature, we are ever more dependent on her. The illusory struggle against material nature can be stopped at once by revival of our Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. This consciousness is the original energy of the living entity. When we hear the transcendental vibration, this consciousness is revived, and this process is recommended for this age by authorities. By practical experience also, one can perceive that by chanting this Mahamantra, or the great chanting for deliverance, one can at once feel transcendental ecstasy coming through from the spiritual stratum, and when one is factually on the plane of spiritual understanding, surpassing the stages of senses, mind, and intelligence, one is situated on the transcendental plane. This chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is directly enacted from the spiritual platform, and thus this sound vibration surpasses all lower strata of consciousness, namely sensual, mental, and intellectual. There is no need, therefore, to understand the language of the mantra, nor is there any need for mental speculation or any intellectual adjustment for chanting this Maha Mantra. It springs automatically from the spiritual platform, and as such, anyone can take part in the chanting without any previous qualification and dance in ecstasy. We have seen this practically. Even a child can take part in the chanting, or even a dog can take part in it. Of course, for one who is too entangled in material life, it takes a little more time to come to the standard point. But even such a materially engrossed man is raised to the spiritual platform very quickly. When the mantra is chanted by a pure devotee of the Lord in love, it has the greatest efficacy on the hearers, and as such, this chanting should be heard from the lips of a pure devotee of the Lord, so that immediate effects can be achieved. As far as possible, chanting from the lips of non-devotees should be avoided, just as milk touched by the lips of a serpent should be avoided because of its poisonous effects. The word Hara is a form of addressing the energy of the Lord, and the words Krishna and Rama are forms of addressing the Lord himself. Both Krishna and Rama mean the supreme pleasure, and Hara, or Radharani, means the supreme pleasure energy of the Lord. Changed to Hare in the vocative, the supreme pleasure energy of the Lord helps us to reach the Lord. The material energy is called Maya. The material energy, called Maya, is also one of the multi-energies of the Lord, and we, the living entities, are also an energy, the marginal energy of the Lord. The living entities are described as superior to material energy. When this superior energy is in contact with the inferior energy, an incompatible situation arises. But when the superior marginal energy is in contact with the superior energy called Hara, the living entity is established in his happy, normal condition. These three words, namely Hare, Krishna, and Rama, are transcendental seeds of the Mahamantra. The chanting is a spiritual call for the Lord and his internal energy, Hara, to give protection to the conditioned soul. This chanting is exactly like the genuine cry of a child for its mother. Mother Hara helps the devotee achieve the grace of the Supreme Father, Hari, or Krishna, and the Lord reveals himself to the devotee who chants this mantra sincerely. No other means of spiritual realization, therefore, is as effective in this age as chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, verse number 28. Kridasya Moga Sankalpa Urnanabhir Yatornute Tata Tad Vishayam Dehi Manisham Mahimadava. Kridasi, as you play. Amoga, infallible. Sankalpa, determination. Ornanabihi, the spider. Yata, as much as. Urnute, covers. Tata, so and so. Tat Vishayam, in the subject of all those. Dehi, do let me know. Manisam, philosophically. Mai, unto me. Madhava, O Master of all energies. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O Master of all energies, please tell me philosophically all about them. You play like a spider that covers itself by its own energy, and your determination is infallible. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. By the inconceivable energy of the Lord, every creative element has its own potencies, known as the potency of the element, potency of knowledge, and potency of different actions and reactions. By a combination of such potential energies of the Lord, there is the manifestation of creation, maintenance, and annihilation in due course of time, and by different agents like Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. Brahma creates, Vishnu maintains, and Lord Shiva destroys. But all such agents and creative energies are emanations from the Lord, and as such, there is nothing except the Lord, or the one supreme source of different diversities. The exact example is the spider and spider web. The web is created by the spider, and it is maintained by the spider. And as soon as the spider likes, the whole thing is wound up within the spider. The spider is covered within the web. If an insignificant spider is so powerful as to act accordingly to its will, why can't the Supreme Being act by His supreme will in the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the cosmic manifestations? By the grace of the Lord, a devotee like Brahma, or one in his chain of disciplic succession, can understand the mighty personality of Godhead, eternally engaged in His transcendental pastimes in the region of different energies. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O Master of all energies, please tell me philosophically all about them. You play like a spider that covers itself by its own energy, and your determination is infallible. Well, this is, again, very profound purport, because it presents certain points that have great importance, such as saying, such as giving the example of a spider, which uses its saliva to make a geometrical web, and it's very intricate. And the spider at any time can reabsorb its own spit or its own saliva, and reabsorb the whole net. So you have to understand it. This is an amazing feat. It can expand its saliva and make a perfectly geometrical net that catches, flies and bugs and different things. And then it reabsorbs it into its body because it's its own saliva. And the saliva is somewhat sticky, so anything that lands on that net has a very difficult time getting away, almost impossible because of its stickiness. And then as the insect or fly or whatever tries to get free, it becomes more and more entangled in the sticky net and eventually becomes exhausted. And then the spider will very slowly walk toward the insect and stand on top of it for a little while. And this is like, for the insect, it is terror. It's horrible. And the insect can't move, and the spider is standing right on top of it, and then it lowers its backside that has a very sharp spike, and spikes or penetrates the body of the insect and injects some poison, and the insect dies. And then the spider will very quickly now, it's walking toward the insect, was very slow. It's standing above the insect, is very slow, and it's lowering its spike very slowly into the body of the insect, was slow because the insect is stuck. And then very quickly it wraps up the insect with some of its net and then hides it somewhere and comes back and repairs the net, and then he goes back into hiding. And that insect he'll eat whenever he wants to. So this is amazing. So Prabhupada uses this example to show how the energies of Krishna, just like the energy of the spider is expanded, and it's very complicated. The spider makes this complicated geometrical net, and the Lord expands the whole material creation. But it's its own energy. It's his own external energy. So it's not different than him, although it has all these different forms. And then at any time, and then the Lord expands his Maya potency, and everybody in this world is put into an illusory state of mind, thinking that they are the owner and controller of things. And only a few fortunate people understand that this is not true, that everything is owned and controlled by the Lord, and therefore everything should be used in the Lord's service. But like I said, only a few people understand that. The majority of people never understand that, and including the karma yogis, the jnana yogis, and the Ashtanga or mystic yogis. Very few of them understand that the Lord is both the cause and the effect, that the Lord is everywhere present in the material creation, and even though he's everywhere present and he also comes as incarnation, he is never affected by the modes of material nature or time or any of the miseries that normal people are affected by in the material world. So, Prabhupada calls this by the inconceivable energy of the Lord. Inconceivable means it is so great that we cannot really understand the length and breadth and expansion of this energy of the Lord. And there are multiple energies. Every creative element has its own potencies. So every creative element has its own potencies. That means that Krishna invests his incredible or inconceivable potencies in Brahma, in Vishnu, and in Lord Shiva. So every creative element has its own potencies, known as the potency of the element, potency of knowledge, and the potency of different actions and reactions. So this is amazing statements. And by a combination of such potential energies, so when something is a potential energy, it's just like if you elevate a big heavy stone on top of a mountain, it has a lot of potential energy if it starts rolling down the mountain. You had to put a lot of energy to get it up to the top, and now its energy is even more enhanced, because as it rolls down the mountain, it develops more and more energies, or it releases more and more energies, and comes crashing down eventually to the level ground. So he says, by a combination of such potential energies of the Lord, there is the manifestation of creation, maintenance, and annihilation in due course of time, and by different agents like Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. So these are expansions of Krishna. Vishnu is a planetary expansion, Brahma is a jiva, and Lord Shiva is a partial planetary or partial planetary expansion of the Lord. So this is part of the science of Krishna, to understand these things. And then Brahma creates, Vishnu maintains, and Lord Shiva destroys. Well, why does Vishnu maintain? Because it's harder to maintain than to create and to destroy. And anyone knows that. You can create a family, right? And you can destroy a family. But to maintain a family takes huge amount of patience, and it requires a lot of expertise and determination to maintain the family. Creating it, yeah, you could say it's relatively easy. Destroying it, it can be somewhat, maybe a little more difficult than creating. I don't know, but it's not definitely a lot like maintaining, because maintaining will last many, many years, and it will test the patience and determination of the parents. So, therefore, the maintenance is given to Vishnu, because he has that unwavering determination and energy to maintain an entire universe. Vishnu maintains and Lord Shiva destroys. But all such agents and creative energies are emanations from the Lord. And as such, there is nothing except the Lord, or the one supreme source of different diversities. Okay, so that's a very profound statement again. One supreme source of different diversities. So all this diversity is coming from Krishna himself. And it's non-different than him, but yet he's completely independent. This is called Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva philosophy. The absolute truth is simultaneously and inconceivably one and different. So, Brahma is simultaneously and inconceivably one and different than Krishna. And Vishnu is simultaneously and inconceivably different than Krishna. And Lord Shiva is simultaneously and inconceivably one and different than Krishna. So this requires careful thought and hearing to be able to understand these points. Then, but all such agents and creative energies are emanations from the Lord, and as such, there is nothing except the Lord, or the one supreme source of different diversities. The exact example is the spider and spider's web. The web is created by the spider, and it is maintained by the spider. And as soon as the spider likes, the whole thing is wound up within the spider. The spider is covered within the web. If an insignificant spider is so powerful as to act according to its will, why can't the Supreme Being act by his supreme will in the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the cosmic manifestations. So this is an example of beginning with the known to understand the unknown. So the spider is something we know. We might not know all the intricacies of the spider. So the web that the spider, the geometrical web that the spider expands, is its own saliva, and the saliva is sticky, as we already explained, and it can catch, and anything that lands on that spider web will invariably, I mean, maybe there's some exceptions, but invariably it'll get stuck, and the spider, as I explained, will lance it with its sharp spike and kill it, and then wrap it up and save it for a day in the future where it will eat it. So we see that this is, and then the spider, whenever it wants, it can reabsorb that whole net into its body, as if there was, and then there's nothing there anymore. So this is the amazing feat that the spider can perform. So if the spider has all this potential activity, then now we can understand that Krishna himself can expand and retract at his own will the whole material creation. So, therefore, at the end it says, by the grace of the Lord, a devotee like Brahma, or one in his chain of disciplic succession, can understand the almighty personality of Godhead, eternally engaged in his transcendental pastimes in the region of different energies. So, in this purport, in the verse also, it mentions that Krishna has infallible determination. Now, that is, all the qualities that Krishna has can be to some extent achieved by pure devotees. So, this infallible determination is a very important quality of a devotee. We can never have it in the same completeness as Krishna, but we can have it partially. But even having such determination partially is enough to liberate us from the cycle of birth and death. Therefore it says, Utsaha nishchaya darya tatat karma pavartanat sangatyagat sato vrite sadbir bhakti prasidati. So this is the Nectar of Instruction, text number 3, that says, there are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. And number 1, being enthusiastic. Number 2, endeavoring with confidence. Number 3, being patient. Number 4, acting according to regulative principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Or hearing regularly, like we're doing every morning. Hearing, repeating what we hear. That's called Kirtanam. And then Vishnu Smaranam, and remembering Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna by this hearing and chanting. And then abandoning, number 4, acting according to the regulative principles, such as hearing, chanting, etc. And then, first is being enthusiastic. Second is endeavoring with confidence. Number 3 is being patient. And number 4 is acting according to the regulative principles. And number 5 is abandoning the association of non-devotees. And number 6, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. So here we have the formula for complete success in life. Of course, very few people are going to accept this because there's so much an illusion that even if they hear the truth, they still don't follow it. And this is a fact because the determination and to follow dutifully the principles of spiritual life only occurs if one accepts a bona fide spiritual master and rigidly follows the rules and regulations of spiritual life. So very few people are going to do that, even though it is the ultimate formula for success in life. And the ultimate success is developing pure love and devotion for Krishna, and thus becoming liberated at the moment of death from the entire cycle of birth and death, and going back to the spiritual world where we come from. But most people don't believe there's a spiritual world. Most people don't accept that there's God or a supreme being who created everything. And most people think that the goal of life is sense gratification, self-indulgence, pleasing our own senses rather than pleasing the senses of Krishna. So, although this is the ultimate success that one can succeed in life, and it is not that difficult if one follows the instructions of Krishna himself, and the same instructions are given by bona fide Shiksha and Diksha gurus today. And also, as we're very fortunate to have these transcendental literatures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and Nectar of Instruction that I'm reading from now, and the Nectar of Devotion and so forth, translated correctly by Srila Prabhupada. So in that sense, Srila Prabhupada, or Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, is the ultimate Shiksha Guru for every member of ISKCON, and for anyone else, whether they're a member of ISKCON or not. So here is a formula for ultimate success, the highest success that a human being can achieve, which is going back to the spiritual world for eternal life and eternal bliss in the company of Krishna and purified devotees. So, in the purport to this verse, Nectar of Instruction, text number 3, Prabhupada writes, "Devotional service is not a matter of sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. In substance, its substance is practical activity." So we say that in English in a little bit different words, but we say that there's theoretical knowledge and there's realized knowledge when you apply the theoretical knowledge to specific situations. So, for example, I know someone who got a PhD in volcanoes, but over time, he was never able to find a job, so he ended up driving a taxi, although he has a PhD. There's not a great demand for PhDs in volcanoes because predicting volcanoes is not real science, because they often make mistakes predicting them. You can say, well, there's going to be a volcano, but we don't know when. It could be tomorrow, or it can be 1,000 years from now. So that's not a science, right? But it is a prediction. There's going to be a volcano, but it's not. To be scientific, they would have to be able to state when it's going to happen and how severe it's going to be and what are the ramifications of it, etc., etc. So my friend, who has a PhD from the University of Pennsylvania. It's not university. It's Pennsylvania College or something like that. So he ended up driving a taxi, and so in order to make a living. So therefore, one may have theoretical knowledge, but if they don't actionate it by using it in particular situations, and therefore you're using that knowledge to attain results. Therefore, it's useless knowledge in the sense that they will never use it. And most things that kids learn in school and in college, they will not use most of it in the rest of their life. They will get some specialty if they go to college and get a master's degree or PhD, and they specialize in one particular area. But all the other things they learned, political histories and different types of math and so forth, they will hardly use any of it. In fact, I studied math up to the differential equations. The only thing I really use mathematically is when I want to find out something like, for example, if there's something I don't know, so it becomes an x, and I put it over 1, and it equals two numbers, one on top, one on bottom, and then by multiplying diagonally, I can find out what x is eventually. So that I use all the time. Not when I say all the time, not every day, but I use it a lot. But all the other math I learned, I never used it. Right. So here it says, devotional service is not a matter of sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. Its substance is practical activity. Srila Rupa Goswami, in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11, has defined devotional service as follows. Anya bilasita sunyam gyanakarmadyanavritam anukulyena krishnana silanam bhaktir uttama. Uttama Bhakti, or unalloyed devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, involves the rendering of devotional service in a way that is favorable to the Lord. This devotional service should be free from any extraneous motive and devoid of fruitive karma, impersonal jnana, and all other selfish desires. So this is what is being taught in this temple. We're not talking about mixed devotion with either karma, jnana, or mystic yoga. We're talking about pure devotion that is not contaminated by these lower forms of yoga. And why do I say contaminated? Because in karma yoga, there's always a purpose of self indulgence, even though it is a spiritual activity. In Jnana Yoga, there's also a purpose for self-indulgence, even though that is a spiritual activity. And in Mystic Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, again, there's another self-indulgent purpose. So when one cannot say it's pure, whereas the definition, Anya Bilasita Sunyam, right in the first sentence, or the first phrase, it says, it differentiates pure devotion from mixed devotion. And it says, Uttama Bhakti, or the ultimate pure unalloyed devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, involves the rendering of devotional service in a way that is favorable, one, to the Lord. This devotional service should be free from any extraneous motive, two, that's it. Any motive that's different than pleasing Krishna and pleasing his senses. Well, that eliminates right away the mixed karma yoga, the mixed jnana yoga, and the mixed Ashtanga yoga. When I say mixed, it engages, those persons engaging in those yogas are engaged in a purifying process, but they have a personal goal to achieve. The personal goal of the karma yogi is to be elevated to the higher material planets where the duration of life is much longer, much, much longer. I mean, tremendously longer. And the possibility of sense gratification is intensely augmented from that which one can experience in this world. And people think that this is the highest achievement of the human being, and it is not. It's simply a higher level of sense gratification accompanied by qualities that are conducive to sustained sense gratification. So those qualities are actually good. Self-control, patience, and so forth. But it's contaminated by their goal. Their goal is not to go back to the spiritual world. It's to enjoy greater material pleasure in the material world. But they stay in the material world. And everywhere, even in the heavenly planets, people are subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. Although their duration of life is much longer than on this earth. We only live about 100 years here. You can live for hundreds, sometimes thousands, sometimes millions of years in the heavenly planets. It's called Swarga. Okay, and then for the Jnana Yogi, the Jnana Yogi's desire, personal desire is to attain a facsimile of liberation and emerge into the Brahma Jyoti, or the spiritual effulgence coming from the body of Krishna. But they will fall down from that eventually, because they do not have a personal relationship with the Lord. They have an impersonal relationship. So in the merging into the light of the Brahma Jyoti is impersonal, although it's coming from Krishna. But one would have to attain one of the Vaikuntha planets floating in the Brahma Jyoti. But most of the Mayavadi philosophers and yogis deny the existence of the spiritual world and say there's only this emanating light. So therefore, they will fall down from that position because they have a material desire. And then the mystic yogis who developed the yoga siddhis, Anima, Lagima, Garima, Mahima, and Prapti, and Vasita, and Isita, all these are 8 different mystical powers that are tremendous powers, but they become enamored by those tremendous powers that they develop, even up to the point of creating an alternate universe. And therefore they never attain pure love of Krishna, because it's contaminated by their personal desire. So here it says, Uttama Bhakti, or unalloyed devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, involves the rendering of devotional service in a way that is favorable to the Lord. This devotional service should be free from any extraneous motive and devoid of fruitive karma, impersonal jnana, and all other selfish desires. Bhakti is a sort of cultivation. As soon as we say cultivation, we must refer to activity. Cultivation of spirituality does not mean sitting down idly for meditation, as some pseudo-yogis teach. Such idle meditation may be good for those who have no information of devotional service, and for this reason it is sometimes recommended as a way to check the distracting materialistic activities. Meditation means stopping all nonsensical activities, at least for the time being. Devotional service, however, not only puts an end to all nonsensical mundane activities, but also engages one in the meaningful devotional activities. Sri Prahlad Maharaj recommends Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. These are the 9 aspects of devotion. Number 1, and the most important, is regularly hearing this knowledge coming from Krishna in the form of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and Nectar of Instruction, and Nectar of Devotion, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. These books are the most important spiritual books in the whole universe, not just the earth. And one should hear them on a regular basis. And that takes at least a lifetime, and probably many more lifetimes, in order to absorb all this knowledge. But when one is sincerely engaged in devotional service, then Krishna helps the devotee. Tesam satati yuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam tam yenamam upayantite. Krishna is dwelling in the heart of every living entity. When he sees that someone takes an interest in hearing about him, then he takes an interest in helping that devotee by revelation. Spiritual knowledge is by revelation, not by academic process. So the Lord will reveal that knowledge, just like he revealed the knowledge of how to be the secondary creator in the material universe through the heart of Brahma. And in the same way through the heart, because the Lord is situated in the heart of every living entity as the Paramatma. He can reveal knowledge. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivisto matak smritir jnanam apahanam cha vedaischa sarviraham eva vedyo vedanta vedakrit eva chaham. 15th chapter, 15th verse, Bhagavad Gita says that Krishna says, I am in the heart of every living entity, and from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. And I am to be known through the study of all the Vedas. I am the ultimate goal of the Vedas. I know the Vedas, and I compile the Vedas. So therefore, bhakti, or devotional service to the Lord, with love and devotion, is a cultivation. and that means it's an activity. And it doesn't mean sitting down idly and meditating, but it's all about acting proactively to please Krishna through all kinds of different activities of chanting the holy names of the Lord, going on Sankirtan, preaching the glories of the Lord, cooking for the Lord, organizing programs for the Lord, and so forth. So therefore, these 9 processes of devotional service begins by hearing the name and glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, chanting his glories. 2, 3, remembering the Lord. 4, serving the Lord's lotus feet. 5, worshiping the deity of the Lord, which is non-different than him. 6, offering obeisances unto the Lord. 7, acting as the Lord's servant. 8, making friends with the Lord, like Arjuna was the friend of the Lord. And 9, surrendering oneself fully to the Lord. So Bali Maharaj completely surrendered to the Lord. So each one of these 9 points is exemplified by a great devotee. So hearing the name and glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, number 1, that was Maharaj Parikshit. And then chanting his glories, that was Sukadeva Goswami. And remembering the Lord, that is Prahlad Maharaj. And then serving the Lord's lotus feet, that's Lakshmi Devi. Worshipping the deity, that is, I think, Prithu Maharaj. And then offering obeisances unto the Lord. We'll find out in a minute who that is. And then acting as the Lord's servant, that's Hanuman. Making friends with the Lord, that's Arjuna. And surrendering oneself fully to the Lord is Bali Maharaj. So Shravanam, or hearing, is the first step in acquiring transcendental knowledge. One should not give oral reception to unauthorized persons, but should approach the proper person as recommended in Bhagavad Gita 4.34. Tat vidi paripatena paripasnena sevaya upadekshami te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. This is a very important verse in the 4th chapter, 34th verse of Bhagavad Gita. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. So, the way to approach a bona fide spiritual master is with submissiveness, 1. 2, asking significant questions. 3, it's offering service. These are the 3 prerequisites for receiving knowledge from a bona fide spiritual master. So it is further recommended in the Mundaka Upanishad, Tad Vigyanartam Sagurum Ivabhikachet, to understand the transcendental science of Krishna consciousness, one must approach a bona fide spiritual master. Thus, this method of submissively receiving transcendental confidential knowledge is not merely based on mental speculation. In this regard, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Rupa Goswami, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. This is a very beautiful verse, and it says that in the course of traversing the universal creation of Brahma, some fortunate soul may receive the seed of Bhakti Lata, the creeper of devotional service. This is all by the grace of Guru and Krishna. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 19:151. So there's a similar verse in this Bhagavad Gita also, 7th chapter, 19th verse, which says, Bahunam janmanamante gyanavam mam prapadyante vasudeva saramiti samahatma sudurlabha. After many, many births and deaths of speculation, one may, by the mercy of a genuine devotee, arrive at the solution, the conclusion that Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Krishna, you are everything for me. Such a person is a rare Mahatma. So it is rare for someone to become Krishna conscious or even be interested in it. Manusyanam sahasresu kaschit jatati siddhaye jatatam api siddhanam kaschit mam vititattvataha. This is the 7th chapter, 3rd verse of Bhagavad Gita. Out of many thousands of people who try for perfection, out of many thousands of people, one may be curious about what is the purpose of life, and may and find a guru and bona fide guru. There are many false gurus. They're not gurus, they're kangaroos. But real gurus, they're rare, because rarely do people want to repeat correctly the knowledge that Krishna has given in Bhagavad Gita. But that is a prerequisite to becoming a guru. One must repeat Krishna's instructions correctly. So it's a rare thing to meet such a person, and it's a rare thing to accept that person and receive instructions. And by receiving instructions, one makes genuine and tangible spiritual advancement. But out of many hundreds and thousands and sometimes millions of those that are on the right path, only one will know me, Krishna says. So, just like Srila Prabhupada's guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had almost 10,000 disciples. But only one, Srila Prabhupada himself, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, was able to spread the movement all over the world. The other disciples had the same purpose, but they were not able to do it. But Srila Prabhupada was. Why? Because he had unflinching faith in his guru and determination and the blessing of his guru to achieve that marvelous goal of spreading this knowledge all over the world, of printing, authoring and printing over 500 million books that have been distributed about Krishna throughout the world, and the number is increasing. It's like the universe, it's always increasing. So the book distribution of Prabhupada's authoritative books is ever increasing. So Krishna, and so further it says that the material world is a place of confinement for the living entities who are by nature anandamaya, pleasure-seeking. They actually want to be free from the confinement of this world of conditioned happiness, but not knowing the process of liberation, they are bound to transmigrate from one species to another and from one planet to another, life after life. In this way, the living entities are wandering throughout the material universe. When by good fortune one comes in contact with a pure devotee and hears from him patiently, one begins to follow the path of devotional service. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness is giving such a chance to humanity at large. If by fortune one takes advantage of this opportunity to engage in devotional service, the path of liberation immediately opens. One should accept this opportunity to return home back to Godhead very enthusiastically. Without enthusiasm, one cannot be successful. Even in the material world, one has to be very enthusiastic in his particular field of activity in order to become successful. A student, businessman, artist, or anyone else who wants success in his line in his profession must be enthusiastic. Similarly, one has to be very enthusiastic in devotional service. Enthusiasm means action, but action for whom? The answer is that one should always act for Krishna. Krishnartha kilas chesta. This is a quote from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. In all phases of life, one has to perform devotional activities under the direction of the spiritual master in order to attain perfection in bhakti yoga. It is not that one has to confine or narrow one's activities. Krishna is all-pervading. Therefore, nothing is independent of Krishna, as Krishna himself states in Bhagavad Gita 9.4, Mayatatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham tesu avastita. By me, in my unmanifested form, meaning as Paramatma, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, one has to make everything favorable for Krishna's service. For example, at present we are using a dictaphone. The materialists who invented this machine intended it for businessmen or writers of mundane subject matters. He certainly never thought of using the dictaphone in God's service. But we are using this dictaphone to write Krishna conscious literature. Of course, the manufacture of the dictaphone is wholly within the energy of Krishna. All the parts of the instrument, including the electronic functions, are made from different combinations and interactions of the 5 basic types of material energy, namely Bhumi, Jala, Agni, Vayu, and Akasha, meaning earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The inventor used his brain to make this complicated machine, and his brain, as well as the ingredients, were supplied by Krishna. According to the statement of Krishna, Matstani Sarvabhutani, everything is depending on my energy. Thus, the devotee can understand that since nothing is independent of Krishna's energy, everything should be dovetailed or used in his service. So, this is just part of this long purport to this verse. Utsaha nishchaya darya tatat karma pavartanat. And it says, tatat karma pavartanat sangatyagat satavrite sadbir bhakti prasidati. That there are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. Being enthusiastic. Well, we just heard that part, being enthusiastic. The second one is endeavoring with confidence, and then being patient. And 3, and number 4, acting according to regulative principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, or hearing, repeating, etc. Number 5, abandoning the association of non-devotees. So Lord Chaitanya says, Asat Sangatyaga e Vaishnavachar. How do you recognize if someone is an actual devotee? Well, one sure and certain quality is such a devotee will avoid the intimate association with non-devotional people. So that doesn't mean they're antisocial. It just means they don't intimately associate with non-devotional people. People who eat meat, engage in illicit sex, gamble, and take intoxication. They can preach to those people or help them become Krishna conscious, but they don't engage in what would be called a whimsical way of engaging with them in those 4 types of sinful activities. Okay, so therefore, to understand more deeply what is being said here, Krishna is speaking to Brahma, and he says, O master of all energies. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Brahma is speaking to Krishna, and he says, O master of all energies, please tell me philosophically all about them. You play like a spider that covers itself by its own energy, and your determination is infallible. Well, Krishna is the master of all energies. So it can be C equals mc squared. It can be the Schrodinger formula, or Einstein's formula, and many other formulas and mathematical equations, Maxwell's equations, Faraday's experiments, and so forth. But all the energies, and there are many energies they haven't discovered yet. They've only discovered gravity and electromagnetism, and then weak nuclear energy, and more dense or more focused nuclear energy. Those are the only 4 energies they know about. However, there are many more energies that emanate from Krishna that are yet to be discovered by the so-called scientists. And what do? They just discover it. Just like Columbus discovered the Americas. He was looking for India, but he discovers the West Indies. So that doesn't mean that he created them. It simply means that the Europeans were in ignorance of the existence of the Western Hemisphere, and then Columbus, who was looking for a Western path to India rather than an Eastern path, thinking that he might find an easier path to India than going the Eastern way, by going all the way around Africa and then up the Indian Ocean to Mumbai. But he discovered, for the Europeans, the Western Hemisphere. The Western Hemisphere was there already for millions of years. And so he was not a real discoverer. He just found out something that he was ignorant of. And in the same way, Einstein and Faraday and Maxwell, all these, and of course Newton. Newton's probably the greatest scientist of all time, even greater than Einstein. They simply find out things that are already existing and created by someone else. Of course, very few modern scientists ever claimed that, even Einstein himself never claimed that there was a person you can call God or Krishna that created all these things, because they have such puffed up false ego that it doesn't allow them to imagine there's someone smarter than them. But they are all in awe of the way nature works. They can see that nature is working in a organized fashion, but they claim that it happened by accident, and that's complete nonsense. That means they're the most irrational people in the world. Like, for example, if a caveman found a modern cell phone, what would he think about it? Well, he wouldn't know how to use it, but he could see that it's something complicated, especially if he starts smashing it open and all the parts fall out, right? But he doesn't understand what it is or how it's to be used, but he can see that it's a complicated machine. So, in the same way, the modern scientists, like the caveman, they're seeing this huge amount of organization in nature. But because of their false ego, they will refuse to accept that there's someone smarter than them that created it. So they make all these fake theories. Big Bang, and we come from monkeys, and there's gender neutrality, and there's critical race theory, and there's this thing, and there's that thing. All theories. There's string theory, and there's a theory that the universe is expanding infinitely, but one day it will retract again, and then it'll be more Big Bangs. It's all nonsense. That's why they're completely confused by the fact that it seems like now that they've established that the universe is expanding at a tremendous rate, the speed of light, and it doesn't look like it's going to stop. This completely befuddles them, because their whole theory was there's expansion and there's retraction and there's explosion again and expansion. So they cannot really understand all the energies of Krishna and all the intricacies and mysteries of Krishna science. But a devotee can, because Krishna will reveal the knowledge to the devotee in two ways. One, by the devotee hearing, not simply reading, because reading is not good enough for understanding. You have to hear the Vedic knowledge, especially in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, spoken by genuine devotees, who simply repeat what is written on the pages without any speculation or extrapolation. Okay, so we'll stop right there and continue tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to hear a lot more about determination, because that is the thing that is necessary when engaged in spiritual life to achieve the goal of spiritual life, going back to Godhead, is having the determination and perseverance. And we're going to hear about those two words tomorrow, and with a lot of very enlightening examples. So we'll stop right there. Are there any questions? The silence is deafening. Okay, ask a question, Prabhu. Okay, go ahead. Wow, look, is that snowing?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Doesn't look like we're going to Arlington today.
So the scientists say that the universe is expanding.
Yes.
And it would contract at some point. But on what basis, or what is the source for expansion? Like, how is it expanding itself? Right? So that's something I don't think they have explained properly.
Well, no, they say it is because of the Big Bang. The Big Bang starts from a point of so-called infinite density, and it explodes and it expands.
And then how would it start contracting? What is the...
Well, because of forces of gravity and so forth, anything that expands can retract normally. But this is confusing them because
Right.
it's expanding at the speed of light,
Right.
and it doesn't look like it's ever going to retract. So they're confused by it. It debunks their theory
Right.
of the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Just like you expand and you retract also, right? One of these days, you know, you're 6'4",
6'2" minutes.
huh?
6'2".
6'2". One of these days, you're going to be 3'1".
Yeah.
Right? So everything expands and retracts in the material world as far as we know it, and from our limited point of view. But the universe doesn't look like it's going to retract.
Yeah.
And they're confused. They don't know what to say. It doesn't fit into their model.
Right.
Okay. We'll have. Oh yeah, you have a question. Wow, now there's too many questions.
Not
Yeah,
too
go
many,
ahead.
Maharaj. I was not about to ask, but yeah. So, Maharaj, you talked about, I think, the potency of Krishna, and then he has like Vishnu or Shiva, and then Brahma. They are different potencies coming.
They're receiving from Krishna.
Receiving from Krishna. But, so...
You also have potency.
Yes,
Receive
Maharaj.
from Krishna. I also have some.
Yeah.
Everybody has some.
But in actually they have totally different like in India a lot of like Vaishnavism and then Shaivism. It's always been a clashes like all the time. So means if it is just coming from same, like why the people start like differentiating so much, like
Why does your
where
wife sometimes argue with you? You explain that to me, then you'll know why. Huh? Why are the Democrats and the Republicans always arguing? Because they have personal interests. Their interest is not to serve Krishna. Their interest is to serve their own purpose. So as soon as people have their own purpose, it's not to serve Krishna, there's going to be arguments. Everybody has their own point of activity. So if my point is here, your point is there, eventually we're going to intersect. And that's where we start arguing. Right? So that point of intersection is different points of opinion people have. Right? So, but when everyone agrees, everything belongs to Krishna, therefore I should use everything in Krishna's service, then there's not going to be any fighting. There's not going to be any intersection of points of interest. Everyone has the same point of interest, and you have concentric circles around it. There's no intersection. So everyone works cooperatively. Whether you please Krishna or I please Krishna, we're both happy because we have the same goal to please Krishna. But if your goal is to have a Tesla and I only have a Ford, I become envious. Why should that idiot have a Tesla? I should get a Tesla also, right? So the people become envious and they fight, because they have different points of interest, their own selfish interest. Just one selfish interest is enough to keep you in the material world eternally. And that one selfish interest can skew or contaminate everything you think and do in life. So Prabhupada did not have any selfish interest. His only interest was to please Krishna. You see. But if someone has a selfish interest, everything they think, do, decide will be, like say, wrong. Just by one selfish interest. Therefore, it's very dangerous to be in Krishna consciousness. It's like walking on a razor's edge.
even in Krishna consciousness, Krishna consciousness, but as long as we are not following strictly, there's a problem of falling down, right? So I see there is some temple in Bangalore also. I think they follow, but it's not ISKCON temple. I think they think that it's independent.
No, it is an ISKCON temple. They have the right to use the name. They fought in court to have.
Yeah. But they're still following their own, I think.
No, there's one major difference, and that is they believe that the sampradaya stops with Prabhupada.
Yeah.
It's just like the Sikhs. They also believe their sampradaya stopped with the 10th
Guru.
Guru.
Yeah.
Right? And after that, there's no more gurus. There's just their guru, those 10 gurus. So the Ritviks also think that the Sampradaya stopped with Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Of course, that's not what Prabhupada or Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur or Bhakti Vinod Thakur or any of those people going back all the way to the beginning to Krishna. No one ever came up with that philosophy before, because it's a false philosophy. Yeah. Okay, so now we'll get to. Don't ask any more questions. Who's going to lead? Anybody? You can, okay.
Shri Guru Cha.
Go ahead.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti
Sadma. Bandhamui Savadhana Mate. जहार प्रसादे भाई ए भव तोरिया जाय.
जहार प्रसादे भाई ए भव तोरिया जाय. कृष्ण प्राप्ति हो जहा होते. Padma Vakya Tite te Koriya Ekya. Vakya Tite te Koriya Ekya. Arena Kori ho mane Asha. Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati. Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati. Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha. चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से. दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो. प्रेमा भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाशा जायते. वेदे गाय जहर चरितो. वेदे गाय जहर चरितो. श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनर बंधु. लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवाना.
પ્રભુ કરો દયા દેહો મોરે પદ છાયા એ બેજાજ ગુશિક ત્રિભુવના શીલા પ્રભુપાદ પતિત પવન જય પ્રભુપાદા જય પ્રભુપાદા જય પ્રભુપાદા જય પ્રભુપાદા જય ગુરુદેવા જય ગુરુદેવા જય ગુરુદેવા જય ગુરુદેવા નમઃ ઓમ વિષ્ણુપદાય कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Jayam Vishnupad Paramansa Pararajikachastata Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Jamuna Maya Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanand. All glories to the symbol divine. All glories to the symbol. All glories to the symbol. All glories to Shikuru and Shikuranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Patita Pavan Ki Jai. Namo. Shai Srila Prabhupada. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection and fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada.